Did anybody know that we were going to talk about the power of habit today? All right.
Did you tell everybody?
Yes. Well, let's just say I walked by a book of that title in the airport a year ago, and I didn't pick it up. But I picked up the idea, and I finally started looking at it, and I thought, wow, I coulda, shoulda, woulda picked up that book a year ago. Anybody read the book called The Power of Habit? Excellent. Okay. Well, I want to give some credit before I sail into this. That book, The Power of Habit, is written by Charles Duhigg, D-U-H-I-G-G. Fantastic. And the summary that I'm referring to is by a wonderful gentleman by the name of Kim Hartman. If you've ever heard of how there are people whose profession it is to read something and distill it and create a summary for a busy professional to be able to get the gist of it and run with it, he's one of those people. So really sort of like the Cliff's Notes version. But I want to begin with a promise this morning. The promise is this. We say that there's something called the power of habit, and that sometimes it is a servant, and sometimes it is a saboteur. The question is, do you feel like you have good habits? Thank goodness I have my seatbelt on. Or do you have bad habits? I can't believe I just said that. You're not alone. That's the promise. We all do so much every day, which automatically happens without thinking. And some of our habits are lifesavers, and some of them are life stealers. Shakespeare says that nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And that's what we teach you. We agree with that. It is the essence of our teaching. So rather than being pulled back and forth in this endless battle between good and bad, whether it's habits or anything else, we rise to a different place where we harness the power of habit. We let go of that struggle and we start living fully, wholly, and completely. The beauty of this material that we're going to look at regarding the power of habit is that it could be a Science of Mind class. It could be a Science of Mind workshop. It could be another chapter in any book that we have. Because what it does is it talks about how habits are created and how they operate and how to go from being sabotaged by them to having them serve us. In some of our teachings, we talk about the law of cause and effect, the creative process, as either being our servant or our master. And it becomes our servant when we understand how it works. So that's what we're going to do with habit today. Habit is defined in some very familiar ways. One of them is a settled or regular tendency or practice, especially one that is hard to give up. It can also be considered a custom, a practice, a routine, a want, W-O-N-T, a pattern, convention, way, norm, tradition, matter of course, rule. You see how some of those things that we call habits, we get stuck in because it's just the way it is, because it's a tradition in our family. It is a custom. It is a rule. It doesn't mean that it's true or that it is life-affirming. It just means that we've all agreed to do it, and the agreement is long since become unconscious. Now, in its extreme, it can become addiction, dependence, dependency, craving, fixation, compulsion, obsession, and weakness. Yeah. Okay? An automatic reaction to a specific situation. So that's when something like that has become embedded. Ernest Holmes, this is a page out of the 1938 textbook of the Science of Mind, says about how habits are acquired and treated. I'm going to just give you part of it. He says, what is a habit? A habit is desire, objectified. The continuous character of one's thoughts and feelings, a desire for something that will give satisfaction. And at the root of all habit is one basic thing: the desire to express life. The desire to express life. I love how this all fits together. I love it. So here's where we get into a little bit of teaching from Charles Duhigg. This is a little excerpt from the Amazon review about the book. It says, "The Power of Habit. The key to success is understanding how habits work. By harnessing this new science, we can transform our business, our communities, and our lives." Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
That's how we talk every day. How about this? 40% of all the actions that we perform on a daily basis are habitual. They are automatic. That means they are unconscious. 40%, that's a lot. I don't think that includes when you're sleeping. I think we're talking about 40% of our waking activities are done habitually. Now, I started with this idea that a good habit might be something like, wow, I'm glad I had my seatbelt on. I have this great habit of putting my seatbelt on. I don't even remember doing it. It's just on by the time my car is moving, and I like that. I'm going to keep that one. That's great. That happens automatically. And there are other things that we do automatically and habitually that don't yield such great results, and those are the ones that we like to change. And yet, thinking that we have to try not to do something doesn't work. It says it here, and it says it in everything that we teach and talk about. So, Ernest Holmes said that to the degree that we understand how something works, it can give what it has to us. We're talking about laws. We're talking about spiritual laws. We're talking about natural laws. We're talking about everything from gravity to the power of your attention. Okay? All of these laws, they have a certain way that they operate that's duplicatable, that anyone can test the hypothesis and get the same result, because these are things that do not change. Electricity, how water moves. Engineers need to know how something operates in order to be able to invent things and create things that utilize those principles. That's why planes fly, right? So the same is true for the power of habit. The same is true for our discovering how something operates, and to the degree that we understand it, it becomes a servant to us rather than us having it as our master. So then it becomes something that brings us more life, more good, more joy, more beauty, more bounty, rather than more trouble, more strife, more problems. So we have that. So having said that, there are 3 ingredients to a habit. There are 3 things that are involved in creating one. And I was thinking that a good acronym would be CRR. So maybe it's Connecticut Railroad, okay? So you'll remember that. CRR, Connecticut Railroad, has something to do with habits. Okay, well, CRR means this. Number 1, C means that there is a cue, also called a trigger, okay? Number 2 is that there is a routine. Literally, the word route is in there, R-O-U-T, okay? Routine means that there is a way that you get from the cue to guess what? To the reward. So we have a cue, we have a routine, and we have a reward. And what happens is, and this is based on neuroscience, not just psychology, but this is looking at something that's universally true about us and our experience. And again, understanding it allows us to work with it instead of it having seeming power over us. Okay? So we're talking about the law, the principle of how habits are created, how they operate, and to access the power of them by that understanding. So there's a cue. Okay. So the cue tells the brain to go into automatic mode and determine which habit to use. And you know why it does that? It's looking for ways to save effort. the brain is looking for ways to be efficient, because it's got a lot going on. So it wants to find the best way and then be done with it. Okay. So the brain's looking for the best way to do something so it can just call it good. A cue comes along. What might that cue be? Okay, it's been a hard day. Well, what do you automatically think of when you've had a long, hard day? It's okay, you can admit it. It might be a cold beer, It might be to put your feet up. It might be your favorite easy chair. It might be your favorite show, right? I know I see a lot of laughing going on back there. It might be all of those. My favorite show, my favorite chair, my favorite beer. No. Think of comfort foods. My goodness. If I list them all, they're like, wow, they're all high in salt and fat and cholesterol, but it's like, I've had a hard day. I'm going to go have a cheeseburger and follow it with some ice cream. And then I'll feel better. Not. Anyway, by the way, we are a teaching center, not a preaching center. We don't tell people what to think. We teach people how to think. So, those were just some examples. You can transcend all of that with your belief. So here we go. You have a cue. It could be, I'm tired. It could be, I'm lonely. It could be, I'm sad. It could be, I'm angry. It could be lots of things, right? Then we automatically reach to this set of habitual responses that we've stored in our memory. Oh, this one will be good. And it all happens without conscious thought, right? Because the brain is saving time, and it has stored the best ways to get there that it knows of. So then we have a routine. Well, the routine is to go get the stuff, either go get the burger or go get the stuff to make the burger. But by golly, get on with the burger experience, right? Okay, I'm using my own example. So then the reward, that first bite, right? The reward, again, I'm only using my own examples. When I have a belief that I've had a rough time emotionally, the imprint since I was a child, maybe after a good cry, was sugar. So there's something so holy and satisfying about biting into that chocolate ice cream after you just got, a booster shot in the arm or whatever. So, but here's what happens. Over time, the loop becomes more automatic. The cue and the reward become intertwined until a powerful anticipation called craving emerges and a habit is born. Ta-da! Uh-oh. How many of those do we have? Apparently 40% of what we do, right? Some of them are great. I wear my seatbelt. I brush my teeth. I always wear clothes when I leave the house, As a matter of fact, I wear them in the house. But hey, I obey traffic laws. There are all kinds of things that I do automatically that are excellent. And there's some people who forget those things, and that's why they're out there doing something else. Okay. Habits. So a habit is born when we have a cue, we establish a routine in order to get the reward, which is to feel better in some way, to feel more satisfaction or whatever it is. And then what happens is that we associate that cue with that reward, and we become accustomed, there's 2 seats up here and there's some back there, we become accustomed to the cue and the reward being one thing. And then because the brain is being efficient, the whole idea of how to get there has become unconscious. It is automatic. And this is, I don't know, it's written in here somewhere. But what happens is the whole concept of brain activity involved in making a decision out the window. Out the window. Okay. So we know we have CRR. Cue, route, reward. Cue, route, reward. Cue, route, reward. Okay. So the interesting thing is that what they're saying about how to change a habit is not to try not to. You know, how many times have you done that? We've all done it with diet, with exercise, with attitude. You know, well, I used to be worried about making spelling errors when I was handing in papers at school. And the more that I worried about it, the more errors I made. I thought, isn't that interesting? And I spelled literature wrong in my literature class on the cover page for the class. You know, it was like, how bad can it get about that bad? Test anxiety. Okay, we have all kinds of habits. They are conditioned responses that no longer involve cognition. They no longer involve thinking. They are unconscious. So, as you can imagine, if our thinking is creative, and if you came here a few weeks ago, and or at some other time, and you learned that what we thought yesterday became our memories today, and that our memories are creative, the thing is, that means that the 40% that we're doing habitually, unconsciously, is still creative. Ouch. So, what we want to do, because we can't fight it, can't beat them, join them, right, is to do this. Okay, habits are made by a cue, a route, and a reward. Okay? And so what we're saying is something new that I learned from studying this material in The Power of Habit. You don't try to avoid it. You don't dig in, because you know what we resist persists. You just change the middle. Can you believe this? I mean, this is shocking. People who are dealing with addiction and alcoholism, for example, they actually say that what you should do is set up the craving. Set up the cue. How can you actually bring on the cue and the craving on purpose? Wow. Okay, well, here's why. Because you keep the cue and you keep the reward. You don't change that. What you change is how you get there. The route, the routine. You change the middle part, how you get there. So you don't try not to want something. You don't try not to desire feeling better. What you do is you become willing to get there by some other means that doesn't do you in, that isn't a saboteur in your experience. So, for example, some people, they do a lot of substitution. Guess what? Substitution is a great way to get there. There's a substitute for the drink. There's a substitute for the cigarette. You might become a really, busy gum chewer, There's a substitute for what I used to do when I got mad or sad. There's a substitute for what I used to do when I felt lonely, or the substitute for what I used to do when I felt impoverished. What if what you do when you feel impoverished is go spend more money? And what if what you do when you are not happy with your weight is to go eat? Like try on clothes and then say, let's go eat. What if you're dissatisfied with your communication skills? And so the way that you do that is just to say, F everybody, and I just won't talk. I'll just read books. I'll get a cat, and I won't have any relationships, or whatever it is. We have habitual responses, so we can say, I'm not going to deny that I feel this way, that I'm triggered by this experience, and I'm not going to deny that I desire this reward, because it is my nature to be in harmony with life. It is my nature to be fulfilled. It is my nature to be greater than I perceive myself to be. It is my nature to have more. It is my nature to love life. So somehow, the exploration is really about taking a different route to get there. I think it's kind of funny. I really am. I'm in love with my bicycle because, it represents so many things. I was talking with somebody earlier. I can't run anymore. My knees have said, no, thank you, we don't do that. So, maybe that could change, because I could believe and take more supplements and, manifest new knees, or I could manifest, replaced ones or something. But in the meantime, I love my bike. I got my bike the day that I was told I couldn't run. And what happens is, not only do I get physical exercise for from getting on my bike, but it is a route. It is a response that I have to certain cues, and it brings me rewards. And there are like 5 of them. We start with the most primal that comes from the memory of being a child and thinking, oh, I have no freedom, I have no autonomy, and then you get a bicycle. Get on your bike, and then suddenly the world is so big I can go anywhere I want. I used to ride 20 miles to get a sandwich. So there's that freedom, right? Okay. Then there's the endorphins that kick in, and then there's just maybe the adult version of freedom is taking a break from whatever I was working on or thinking about. And then there are other more long-term rewards. But see, the other thing that I can be quite good at is a response that involves not moving and staying at home and jeopardizing my well-being. I have other responses to those cues that produce different results. So all you have to do to change a habit is know that a habit is created by addressing a cue with a different route that leads to the same reward without doing you in. Here's the other part. The other part is that is not enough unless you're willing to actually set up the craving, because the brain has to start anticipating this awesome reward. Now, while I was typing this up yesterday and thinking about it, I thought about my bike. And then all I could think about was, get on the bike, get on the bike. And then I'm like, no, you have to finish what you're doing. I want to get on the bike. So I have definitely succeeded in establishing a pattern so that my brain begins the craving just when I think about it. And because I'm a big girl, I waited till later, and then I went for a ride, and it was great. Okay. So you actually want to make sure that you establish a cue that brings on the craving so that the subconscious activity of craving will set the loop, the habit loop in motion. You literally are starting the cycle that will take you through the new route to the reward you're after. Okay. I love this last part. The last part says that you must believe. How about that? It is the power of belief. Belief is necessary. Funny thing, but 2,000 and many other years ago, somebody said, it is done unto you as you believe. And that has been echoed by others. That has been suggested and taught by others. It has been studied by many. And that concept is at the core of what we teach and practice here. It is done unto us as we believe. So we have a cue, we have a route, we have a reward. We realize that we actually need to get to the point where we're experiencing the craving. Oh, better have a new route in place, right? That is what will start the habit loop. And then it will kick in and take care of itself. See, actually harnessing the power of how a habit is created, and then it'll be as easy as the fact that I put on my seatbelt, I brushed my teeth, I'm dressed. Whatever it is, it will be that easy. It will not. This would be Deepak Chopra's idea of the law of least effort. It will not be effort. Once you utilize the power of habit, then you will automatically be doing great things for yourself and receiving the true rewards that fulfill that initial cue that in something in you says, this aspect of my wholeness is missing right now, and I'm scared, or I'm mad, or I'm sad, I feel empty, I feel lonely, I feel cheated, or whatever it is. But you'll find your way to your fulfillment in a way that actually works. Okay, so we have cue, we have route, we have reward, and then we have the very vital importance of craving. Can you believe it? Actually harnessing the power of craving, and that's what sets it into automatic motion. We are learning that belief is necessary. And then, the best part, the icing on the cake, is that all of that is much more easy to achieve in a group. If you go home by yourself and study this and talk to no one and try to get there all by yourself, it will take longer and won't be as much fun. However, if you do it in the company of one more person, or a group, or a community, if you do it with a buddy or a partner, if you do it with a whole network, what will happen is it'll be easier for you to believe. It will be easier for you to get where you want to go. And instead of struggling over and over and over again with a habit that you believe you can never break, you'll be utilizing the power of habit to be free and to live that life of infinite possibility, which by its very nature has no limit. So I invite you to remember this today. CRR, Q, route, reward. On your other hand, you have craving, belief, community. CRR, Q, route, reward, and then you have craving, belief, and community, CBC. That's all you need. Namaste.